You're listening to the IMT Show with Mike Sims. Now here is your host.
All right. On the show today, I have Mieko Mahi, which is a photographer for the oil industry and also runs an art gallery in Hallettsville, Texas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mike.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you got to in this.
Well, I'm an oil and gas photographer, and it's been a career I've had since 1988. And so I've been doing it for quite a long time. And I was actually, way before then, I was in video and photography, but not in the oil.
Right.
So I have a long career.
Yeah, I could see you had a long career in that.
Mm-hmm. But I really enjoyed the oil and gas, and that's where I made my success, which when you think about it, it's pretty amazing that I was able to do that. But at the time when I was going after the oil and gas, I don't know, I think, in life, it just things just fall in your lap and you just run with it. And
right.
It's not something that you really plan. It just happened. The opportunity was there and I took it to get into the oil and gas industry.
I got to ask, how did it feel flying around and taking pictures and from helicopters? I imagine you did that quite a bit.
Yes. How does it feel?
Because I imagine you take pictures from all different venues.
When I'm taking pictures, I'm really thinking about the subject and what I'm doing, and it's being on a helicopter is not as exciting as it sounds. It's work. It can be cold. It can be freezing. It can be
right.
A lot of things. But as far as if you're thinking it's fun, I wouldn't say it's fun. It's work.
It's work.
But and it was funny. One time I was interviewed by somebody, and I started thinking, well, this interview, I'm not really sure who was asking me questions, so I just said, "Oh, it's easy," but really, I was just trying to get off the phone, and he printed this really nice article about me, and he said it was easy being on a helicopter. So I thought that was funny because anyway, he wrote a really beautiful article.
Well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's
not easy being on a helicopter, and if anyone tells you it is, I wouldn't believe them.
I just imagine. That's why I say it's I imagine you had quite a bit of that.
Yeah. So I'm when I was younger, I was a risk taker, but when you get in the oil industry, you can't take risk, because there's only a couple options, and you're not going to see me doing things that would be dangerous. So even though they are dangerous, there isn't a photo out there that's worth it.
Right.
So, and I've gotten good enough where I don't have to do all that, because I already know what the customer wants, and so I don't have to take risk.
Exactly. So what do you feel is one of your greatest accomplishments?
Well, that's a great question. To me, it was the Life on the Rig exhibit that I did years ago. I have to say years now, because it had to be at least 15 years ago. But that was quite an accomplishment, because it was titled Life on a Rig, and it had the whole industry of offshore in the exhibit, from exploration, production, construction, living on a rig, and the safety. And then it had all the new dynamics, all the new drilling at the time. And it was an expensive exhibit, but once I did it, it was pretty cool. I mean, it was pretty cool. I showed it at the Galleria in the mall. I showed it at
nice.
people would contact me and they would have me show it at for their cocktail dinner, and it would be the main entertainment was the exhibit, and then I showed it at universities, and then but where it had its debut was at the offshore rig in Galveston.
Wow.
And what was really unique, if anybody's listening to this that's interested in being an oil and gas photographer or just trying to break into being successful, is that exhibit really opened up doors for me. And because what had happened, the big thing for me was I never had to bid, because people called me and they wanted me, and I didn't ever have to give a price out.
Wow.
So, and that's pretty cool. And that was but it's not so much, when I say the greatest success, to me, it was an accomplishment, just, having this goal and then completing it and then having it so well received. And so, and I think so that's why I look at it as a big achievement, because it's not as easy as it sounds.
No.
The research and putting it together. I mean, it was all my photography, but, I worked with several people. Like I had several engineers come over and go over it with me, and I had to work with designers, and then and it ended up, I didn't get a sponsor for it, so I had to use my own money. It was like $15,000.
Wow.
And so it wasn't, and it was well received, and no criticism. So that's the main.
That's amazing.
Complaints.
But yeah, it's
a big the offshore industry is a big industry.
Oh yeah,
I guess does that answer your question? Does that answer your question on? But that's what were you going to say? Because I'm interested.
Oh, I was just saying it's interesting how your one career had meshed into another one like that and opened up doors in another one. It's like everything's opening up before you.
Yes, and then I guess the oil industry is definitely one phase of my life, and it's one that I still love and still enjoy doing. And but now I'm in this other phase of the artistic side, which is the art gallery, because now it's not about me anymore. It's all about the artists, and we have 25 artists in 2020, 21. I don't know if your community knows that I opened up an art gallery in 2015 by mishap. It wasn't planned, but let's see. I think it's this. We've been doing the art gallery for 6 years, but I do have to say that it is a nonprofit, and I don't own it, because we have co-founders, right. And we're all equally important, because you can't own it's really a government organization,
right?
We have to answer to the government and to
right.
And
that's in Hallettsville on Main Street, right?
Yeah, it's on Main Street in Hallettsville, but it was unique because it definitely wasn't planned, and right now there's an incredible amount of people that are involved. We have 214 paid members, and you don't have to be a paid member to attend events or anything. The membership for us, since we've been in business for 6 years, is just to keep the doors open. It just helps us with revenue. And so there are ongoing, it's a way to identify our supporters. And
have you had any interesting quotes from any artists or curators or anything from places that inspired you?
On the gallery?
Yeah.
Or what specifically? Well, I think I'm trying to think what comes to mind. With the gallery, as far as feedback from community, we do these scavenger hunts, and
wow.
it's for all ages, and it's great because even if a child is not young enough to, as long as they're able to walk, they can do a scavenger hunt, and it's so cute to watch the parent walk around And because they only have to write one word in the hunt, and when they finish it, they get a prize.
Hmm.
And it's so cool because like the parent is working with the child how to spell cat or dog or cow or car or truck, and because they only have to answer one word. And so it's a beautiful, I mean, to me that's something that touches my heart, to see if, quiet time, and you
Right.
have in a beautiful place as the Stansel building. It's a famous historical place, beautiful building restored by Dr. Betty Edwards. And then you have a mother and a child interacting with art, and they're filling out these forms. But we have all ages that, adults do it. But what's really cool is the last question that we go to. And the last question is, how does it make you feel? Like, how
Yeah.
does the art make you feel? Because we'll always ask, like, what was your favorite art, and how does it make you feel? And those answers are joy, happy. And
Wow.
so, and you, anyway, and so I guess on my to-do list is to start publishing some of those comments.
Wow. And that's
But but since I've been with the gallery, I've been Victoria News has been Victoria, which is 45 minutes away. They have a TV station, and they've interviewed me several times or invited me to come on. And I do better in costume, I think, because I think I'm nervous in person. Like if I have a
Right.
witch costume on, or if I'm just in character, and I always bring an artist with me and let them do the talking. So.
Oh, it's the same thing when author friends of mine go to conventions, they dress up and they put on a character, and they can interact and deal with people a lot easier. It
Yeah.
works.
Oh yes, I'll be dressed in a Santa hat and a Santa helper and it's just so much fun because I always have goodies and beautiful art and great stories about the art. So Victoria, I would like to point out that Victoria has been really good, and the newspaper there has been really good to us, and our newspaper. It's important to. One of the things I really reached out to the media, and actually we were in the Houston Chronicle Sunday.
Oh wow.
That was cool. But one of our artists that we had in the gallery was in the paper news, like City Press, and he had an interesting story. In fact, he could be so famous right now, and I imagine one day the whole world will know him. And he's an
Fantastic.
artist. He's an artist because there's all kinds of art, but when you do art that is from here and
Right.
and you're expressing it. And so what he was expressing, his life as a paraplegic, he was born with spinous bifida. And so here's this guy that when he was 4 years old, well, he was told he would never live past 4. And then he told him he would never graduate from high school or college or anything like that. And anyway, he did graduate high school, and he did get some courses in, and he did have a show with us, and it was all about his suffering, and his relationship with his spiritual relationship, and but I don't want to share all that. I could, but I'll end up making everybody cry. But it was a great story. His life, and that was Aaron.
It's inspirational. It's definitely inspirational.
Yeah, Aaron Frisky, and he worked at the gallery for 2 years, and he won Citizen of the Year. He got a Navy Admiral anointment from the governor.
Wow.
And the reason was because here's this man who's in his 40s, and he's not working at the gallery now, but here's this man, and he worked several years at the gallery and for free, as a volunteer. And then he worked at Gaslight Theater, and then Victoria worked at the university there at the school. And here's this man, he created this life of volunteering. Anyway, those are some of the things that the gallery helped with, because we wrote the letter to the governor, and we wrote the letter to the city.
Nice.
And but he well deserved. I mean, we did it on his opening. He had so many people. And like I said, stories like that, that's what gets published in big news.
Yeah. That's that emotion thing that
And,
that gets people.
but the quality of but what impressed me with him was his quality. Like when I went to his house, I'm like, and it's interesting because I wanted, it's the worst thing you could say to artists is, did you do this? And I the work was so amazing because I have an art degree and always loved art, and so I had to ask him, did you do this? Which is the worst thing. And because the caliber was so high, and
Right.
and like not like anything I've seen before, and that's the worst thing. That my whole career as a photographer, I did not like it when people said to me, did you do this? It really bothered me because I'm presenting it, this is my work, and the only
Right.
thing they say to me is, did you do this? And
Hmm.
it's so insulting.
Wow. So tell me,
And then it would be like an offshore picture, and they would say, did you do this from land?
well, let me think about that.
It really hurt my feelings. And then, what do you mean? What do you think I'm showing someone else's work? But finally, because I get that, you get those questions sometimes often, and this person said, hey, I just asking you that because I know how hard it is, and I just having a problem trying to figure out that you could do that,
Right.
because working in the oil field, it's really tough. It's not easy. It's you're in hot weather, you're in freezing cold weather, your hands are freezing, and
Yeah.
it's a very much an outdoor, you become one with the weather. And for me, I never could pick when my shoots were, so I was always out there. I've and like Shell hired me to do a day in the life of Shell, and I wanted them to hire me for like, let's do a week of Shell and I'll do all the shooting, but they wanted to do a day, so they hired all these photographers,
Right.
and so I was just doing this one segment, and it would rain. It was a rainy day, and so I was out there shooting in the rain, and I used to be, what do you say? This was more when I was like before middle age, particular, like I wasn't going to shoot in the rain.
Right.
But now as I'm older, it's more like in the rain, fine.
Right.
Everything's a challenge, and that's what makes it exciting. So I don't have those. Probably the only boundaries I have is I don't. If I see something that looks like it, no, I'm not going to do it. But in actual fact, I probably do. It's like getting in those helicopters that are like a little bubble.
Right.
I don't like getting in those, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to get in there. But,
It kind of, you reminded me is that actually one of in my earlier days, one of the corporate videos that I had produced was for Seltzer Pumps, and doing a sales promotion video for them. And that was a pretty interesting experience, videoing their machinery and watching them do their stuff, and interviewing them. And it was a one-day thing, but it turned out pretty well.
wasn't any of it outdoors, or was all inside?
It was all inside. I took some stills from the outside of their company and some videos because I wanted to pan the video starting from the sky down, and with music I had with it and everything. Made them a CD that launched it on the little web page automatically and so forth. So they seem happy with it.
Yes, that's one thing. That's something about what's interesting about the oil and gas industry, which is something that a lot of people wouldn't know, is that they appreciate art, and they appreciate artistic talent, and that's what you have, and that's what they appreciate, your
Oh,
expertise.
oh yeah. And it was, and then of course it's a battle because a lot of the employees wanted to be in a video, and you just, you know, you're trying to make an 8-minute video. That's not a 3-hour movie. So
Well, you know what's interesting? You know, after a while, you think you've seen it all, and and the assignments I get, you know, no, there's always something, because like you said, you had too many people. That's always the worst, when someone wants, you know, the wide shot close up, the close up wide shot, or they want the realistic action shot with 8 people, which is impossible. And
yeah,
but I've actually gone on shoots where no one would be in the video, and I don't know if I should say this, but I'm not a crybaby, but I almost did cry. I almost did cry because I wanted to do such a good job, and I couldn't get anyone to be on camera, and
right.
everybody was running from me, and I cared so much about it, and I was so ready and so prepared, but
Yeah.
I didn't want to cry. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's really strange. I mean, until you actually do it, you really don't know. But it's, I mean, I told them all not to wear white shirts, you know, because white washes out in video and all that. And of course, they showed up in white shirts. It was like, okay, we'll work with it. So,
yeah, well, those old cameras that they just couldn't handle that, and yeah.
so it's so has there been any photographers or artists that have inspired you at getting started in all this?
Oh, definitely. Um, well, see, when you say photographers, what do you mean, like in the oil and gas industry, or what?
Anybody that,
Okay. Um, well, I guess when you said inspired, it makes me think of something else, like going into the direction of the oil and gas, but to like go into photography and go into video, um, or to be able to stay. You know, I have so many stories, so many people, but
I know it's hard because you have a whole life.
huh?
I know it's hard because you have a whole life of experiences, you know, and you're just like,
So many
where
people
do I
that,
start? You know?
yeah, yeah. You know, usually the first person that gives you a big break, and that was Malcolm Neal, and that was when I was working in color dynamics. Those are the people that did Barney before Barney,
Hmm.
and he gave me a big break. But as far as and I learned from him, and that's how I learned video. But as far as learning photography, you know, which is interesting because I did study it in school,
Hmm.
is you learn by doing.
Right.
So I learned, well, you don't know, but I learned the hard way, because I never was around anybody that knew it. So when you say taught, there was no teaching anything. It was just, you know, yeah, I did go to school for it, but as far as honing skills, I had to do it on my own. And actually that was at San Antonio College. I was working in the dark room, and the
Mhm.
photographer there he didn't like photography. He didn't want to do it, which is kind of weird that I'm telling you this, but he didn't want to do the photos. And so I did the photos with Hasselblad. And so I went around and I did their catalog, their college university catalog. And so that, you know, what you're getting there, you know, I was doing cadaveras, can you imagine? Going to chemistry, you know, just like the whole university, taking pictures. And so, you know, that's a learning experience. And that, going back in memory, I just remember, don't eat before you start shooting, because I spilled something on my shirt. You know, you get so conscious.
Right.
But fast forward, you know, the problem was I was always a photographer, but I switched to video.
Right.
And then I was always into video, and I was so serious into it, like so serious. I was going to run away to California and be a director.
Right.
And then I don't know, a long story, but I ended up going back home, towards Dallas. and there was this company hiring, and that was a Texas Oil and Gas. And so I approached them as, hey, as a consultant, and they
Right.
ended up, just a quick story. They ended up hiring me. And that was Mike Dixon, and he definitely was a mentor. But he wasn't a mentor like training me or anything. He was just somebody that had faith in me, and
Yeah.
he pushed me, well, he pushed me by giving me too many things to do. and and that was, I was working for an oil company, but just kind of imagine, the weather thing, it's 16-hour days.
Right.
And 60, because sunrise to sunset, 16-hour days. And so this was when I was working for Texas Oil and Gas out of Dallas, and they would send me on some shoot, and then once they were like finished with me, they would give me on to someone else. And because I was an employee, I wasn't a freelancer, and so I had to like obey, and so they would shove me off to someone else, and then I would work 16-hour days. And so I'm doing video stills, going back, editing it. And he had so much faith in me. And after that job was sold to Coke industry, and Marathon offered me a job, and that's how I ended up in Houston. Marathon offered me a job. But Mike and I, we remained friends all the way to his death. And I still miss him. I miss him because I was, like I'd get up in the middle of the night, like 2:00 in the morning, and I would, insomnia, and I would, because trying to stay up, because he was a writer. He wrote for U.S. Steel, USX, and I'm saying USX. Everyone always thinks I'm saying sex, but it's USX. And I was telling that to a lady the other day. I was telling her at the gallery that she'd go upstairs, and if she's sick, and she thought I said sex, like if she wants sex, go upstairs. So I had to make sure I said my S was right. USX, yeah. I'm blushing now, but USX. He worked for them, and towards the end, and because USX own, I don't know if you know, US Steel own Marathon Oil and own US
Didn't know that.
Texas Oil and Gas, and they own Marathon. And then he ended up working back for US Steel. And
Thank you for listening to the IMT show with Mike Sims. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The IMT show is an opinion show and not to be taken as serious personal, legal, tax or financial advice. It is meant as entertainment only. IMT show, Mazeroff for Mike Sims is not responsible for ad content. For more information on show schedules and content, visit www.mazeroff.net/IMT.